Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another Kano Tryharding Modern. Today I'll be playing Amulet Titan, which was one of the decks in the recent poll for decks that I released to the public. That got voted in and tied with the last one I played, which was... Oh my gosh, I can't remember the deck I just played. Anyway, it tied, and we'll be playing Amulet Titan. This is the most recent 5-0 list I could find. It's another 30 land deck. I'm kind of interested to see the fact that we've completely centered on green spells in the main deck. That's interesting to me. But yeah, for those of you that don't know, Amulet Titan is a deck that tries to abuse Amulet of Vigor and Bounce lands. Bounce lands enter the battlefield tapped and produce 2 mana, so Amulet of Vigor untaps them. You can put the bounce triggers in such a way that you can float the mana and then bounce the bounce land again and replay it, and basically use the lands like rituals as long as you have Amulet. And if you have 2 Amulets, they stack, and if you have 2 Amulets, you'll have an incredibly broken opening hand. And basically, we try and go up the curve really quickly into like Dryad of the Elysian Grove, which will give us an additional land play. It'll turn all of our lands into mountains, and then we can Primeval Titan, and we can go get Valacuts and just Valacut our opponent to death. Alternatively, there is a combo where we can play Amulet, play Primeval Titan, we can tutor up Boros Garrison to get red and white mana, and Slayer Stronghold to activate it and give Primeval Titan +2/+0 in haste, and then after Titan attacks, if we have 2 Amulets or if we have sufficient mana laying around, we can tutor up Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion, and give it Double Strike, and so we can basically one-shot our opponent. This deck is capable of a lot of broken draws, and for a while I considered it to be probably the best deck in the format if you had the best luck, just because of how crazy some of the openers can be. I do not have that kind of luck, and I also do not know all of Primeval Titan or Amulet Titan's play patterns. So if I make any obvious mistakes, please forgive me. I'm still learning the deck. I only recently got the Turn Timber Symbiosis, so we'll talk about the sideboard really quick. We've got Pact of Negation just as protection for the combo if for some reason we need it. We have Dismembers for removal. We have Reclamation Sage to deal with artifacts and enchantments. Synergizes with Summoner's Pact. We can tutor it up. Tireless Tracker is just a random value creature. If we're making a ton of land drops, we can actually play a fair game but draw a billion cards. We have Arasta of the Endless Web, which we can play against decks trying to cast a lot of instants and sorceries. It gives us tokens with reach, so we can just block a whole bunch versus decks like Prowess. I think this is kind of interesting tech. I'm glad to see this card being played, because it's a card that I don't normally see played basically at all, ever, and under any circumstances. We have Force of Vigor as a 0 mana way to deal with things like Bridge from Below, or not Bridge from Below, Ensnaring Bridge, and other artifacts like Torpor Orb that might interrupt our game plan. We have Obstinate Baloth as a way to gain life. It's also good versus things like Liliana or forced non-targeted discard. Bojuka Bog versus Graveyard decks. Ghost Quarter versus Tron. Radiant Fountain versus Aggro. Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn. This one's kind of interesting, but it's not completely wholly uncastable for us, because we do ramp incredibly hard. We can also get it off of Turn Timber Symbiosis, which I think is fun, and we have Engineered Explosives. I imagine the Emrakul is for like a mill matchup, maybe, or a control matchup where you just make a bunch of land drops and nothing happens for a long time. But without any further ado, I will see you guys in round 1. Alright, we got Amulet, we got Bounce lands, but we have we have nothing else going on. I think I'm going to try keeping this, but we have to be aware that we have Boros Garrison in our hand. So we either need this untapped on the battlefield before... we drew Vesuva as well, so we can't tutor out a copy of Boros Garrison if we were to play Titan. We're going to lead on Forest and play Amulet. Next turn I'll probably play Colony Garden, untap it, and then explore into probably Boros Garrison. So opponent fetches up a Watery Grave, untapped, and they are going to opt. This is looking like a control deck of some kind. Opponent untaps. They play Castle Vantress. We draw Soccer Tribe Scout, so play Colony Garden. Untap it. Make a plant. We'll go ahead and explore. Opponent is going to Spell Snare the Explorer. Okay, pass the turn. Opponent untaps and does nothing. We untap and draw Dryad. So, play Selesnya Sanctuary. Float mana. We're going to bounce the Colony Garden, I think. Play Soccer Tribe Scout. We'll see if they counter or respond to this first. I'm going to pass to my second main, and then I'm going to play Dryad. That was an elaborate bait setup to see if it would work. Play Colony Garden. Get another token. Okay, opponent was very disciplined with their removal. They untap, and they're still missing land drops. Well, we just need to resolve a Titan, really. Still ramp. I think I'm just going to play a Breeding Pool tapped. I could put in Vesuva and copy Castle Vantress, but I don't have double blue. They're going to go for the Throat, the Soccer Tribe Scout, okay? Opponent's still missing land drops. We untap. We draw Valakut. Play Valakut. Untap it. Pass the turn. Opponent does nothing on her end step. Play Radiant Fountain. Gain life. Pass the turn. Opponent finally finds land number 3. We draw a second Amulet, so we'll try playing that. That does potentially let us do some pretty broken things. Opponent untaps. They drew another land. Yeah, we didn't draw anything fast enough, I think. We untap. We draw Sanctuary. Alright, we're gonna pass. I could play Sanctuary to pick up Breeding Pool. Because that way, if I draw Talaria West, I can transmute for Summoner's Pact. When it fetches up a Hallowed Fountain tapped, they untap. They play Mystic Gate. Okay, we do get Summoner's Pact. So play Selesnya Sanctuary. Untap it. Untap it. Pick up Sanctuary. Play Grazer. We don't have to play Grazer, but this is mainly just to try and bait. We'll pick up Breeding Pool. Cast Summoner's Pact. Alright, I imagine they're better off countering the Titan or Dryad or whatever it is we get. Yeah, I'll try and get Titan. Cast it. Archmage's Charm, they counter. Okay, pass the turn. So now we have to pay 4 mana on our upkeep. Opponent plays a Sunken Ruins. We untap. We gotta pay 4. We draw Dryad. So I don't imagine Dryad resolving. Okay, opponent has a Cryptic. Pass the turn. They play Glacial. They play Big Teferi. Uptick him. Untap some lands. We untap and draw Dryad. So play Dryad. This opponent is delving a Logic Knot. Or they're playing Cryptic. Logic Knot X6. Alright, well I can't get more mana in response. I could have tried to play around that, but even if I played Boros Garrison, I still wouldn't have enough mana. Man, I wish we were playing Kessig. Pass the turn. Because if I was playing Kessig Wolf Run... Are we playing a, We are playing a Cavern. I don't think I'm supposed to wait on a Cavern, though. Alright, Summoner's Pact. Alright. We're just gonna go to next game. We didn't draw anything nearly fast enough, and that was probably my mistake on the keep. So what do we want versus control? I still think Emrakul might be funny. I think I'm going to play Bojuka Bog over Radiant Fountain. I know I'm bringing in a tap land for an untapped land, but I think this also means we want Tracker, just to have more reasonable threats. I'll cut Azusa. Probably need to cut... Oh, what else do I cut? Maybe some lands? I'm going to cut a couple forests. I don't know, 32 lands in the main deck might be a tad bit many, but I also don't know how to play this deck, so we're learning. Well, maybe I shouldn't have cut forests with 4 Castle Garen Briggs, actually. I would like to play first. We have Amulet, but we have nothing else. Alright, I do like this. We will keep. We'll put back, Grazer, I think. So, play Cavern, name Giant. Play Amulet, pass the turn. Opponent starts Watery Grave tapped. So, play a Forest. Play Amulet number 2, pass the turn. I think I actually, if I'd had that Grazer, I could actually go off this turn, but I don't. If I'd had a green bounce land instead of Boros Garrison to start, I would have kept the Grazer, I think. So, cast Summoner's Pact, get Primeval Titan, play Growth Chamber, untap, float mana, untap, float mana, bounce Cavern, I think, play Primeval Titan. I mean, it's just going to get Go for the Throated, but we have Boros Garrison in hand, so we actually can't go for the haste play right now. If that's the case, I think I get Growth Chamber and Talaria West. So we can untap, float mana, untap, float mana, untap, float mana, untap, float mana, bounce Talaria West, transmute, and we'll get Summoner's Pact. Pass the turn. I could have Summoner's Pacted for Dryad, but if my opponent had a counterspell for Dryad, then we can't pay for 2 Pacts. So we untap. We gotta pay for Summoner's Pact. We draw Explore. So play Boros Garrison. Untap it, float mana. Untap it, float mana. Bounce the Snow-Covered Forest. Then we Pact. Get Dryad. Cast Dryad. Opponent fetches for blue mana. They Archmage's Charm. So we go to combat. Attack with Primeval Titan. So I can get Sunhome, or I can get Slayer Stronghold. I can activate Slayer Stronghold twice, but that doesn't do anything. I could also just go for Growth Chamber Talaria West again. I think we go for Sunhome Vesuva, and then I can copy Growth Chamber. Does that make any sense? Maybe not. Double Strike hits them for 12. They would go down to 7. I could get Bajuka Bog and just prevent them from having a Logic Knot. I think I'm going to go Sunhome Talaria West, maybe? I do want another green land on board, though. I'm actually going to get Sunhome Slayer Stronghold. Okay, so untap Slayer Stronghold, float mana, untap Slayer Stronghold, then we untap Sunhome, float mana, untap it again, then we can give this Double Strike. Actually, if they just Cryptic one of my lands, one of my green lands, I'm dead. I just realized I needed to grab another green land there. I thought so, but I was not sure why. So yeah, if they just Cryptic bounce Simic Growth Chamber, we lose on our upkeep. Ha! Yep, they got it. Opponent never misses. So, sorry about that. I knew I needed another green land for some reason, but... Alright, I'll see you guys in round 2. Alrighty, welcome to round 2. I think this hand is a mulligan. This hand is better, but not a lot better. I'm gonna go to 5. 30 land deck, ladies and gentlemen. Going to 4. Alright. I will keep this. I'm gonna put back Crumbling Vestige and Sanctuary, and it's either Explore or Summoner's Pact. I think I put back Explore. Opponent starts Hallowed Fountain tapped. We draw Boros Garrison, play Colony Garden. Get a 0/1. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Polluted Delta. So float mana, Growth Chamber. Pick up Colony Garden. Pass the turn. Opponent opts. Man, there's a lot more control decks running around than I remember there being in this format. Okay, we draw a Forest. So... play a Forest. Play Dryad. Play Colony Garden. Opponent cracks Polluted Delta. Gets a Watery Grave untapped. This looks like a Fatal Push. Yep. Alright. Pass the turn. Opponent passes. We draw Grazer. So float green mana, play Garrison, pick up Colony Garden, play Grazer, play Colony Garden, make another plant, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Esper Charms makes us discard 2 Summoner's Pacts. Alright, you got it. We draw a Grazer. Pass the turn. Alright. They play a Flooded Strand. We untap. We draw a Primeval Titan. So we needed to draw this the turn after they played Esper Charm, but unfortunately we did not. Okay. Well, Mulligan to 4 versus Control. Didn't work out very well for us. So, bring in Emrakul. Bring in Trackers. And I'll bring in the Bog for the Radiant Fountain. I'm gonna cut, I think, a Sakura Tribe Scout. Actually, both. And then one Forest. Try like this. Alright, I'd like to play first. This hand is good, it's just slow. Play Colony Garden, get a plant. Pass the turn. Opponent leads on Celestial Colonnade. We draw a Zusa. Float mana. Play Sanctuary. Pick up Garden. Play Grazer. Play Garden. Get another plant. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Polluted Delta. We untap and draw Dryad. So, float mana. Play Vesuva. Copying Sanctuary. Pick up Garden. Play Dryad. I expect this to get countered. It's a lot safer to counter this spell than it is to Fatal Push it. Logic Knot for 1. Alright. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a Watery Grave. We untap and draw Emrakul. Play Bojuka Bog. Play Dryad. Play Colony Garden. Well, we got around the Logic Knot for 1. And pass the turn. Going to Esper Charms. They're going to make us discard 2 cards. Discard Azusa and Emrakul. Pass the turn. Come on, just tap out for Mind Sculptor, why don't you? Okay, we untap. We draw Castle Garenbrig. Go to combat. Attack for 2. Play Castle. I'm playing around Logic Knot for 2. But I'm not being able to play around Cryptic. Alright, pass the turn. What is it, Leyline of Life Force or whatever? The creature spells can't be countered? That'd be fun. Who needs Cavern of Souls? Just get them with the Leyline. Alright, we untap. We draw another castle. Go to combat. Attack them for 2. No blocks, but it goes to 11. Play castle, pass the turn. Opponent, go for the throats, kills Dryad. Esper Charms to draw cards. Alright, we untap. We draw Growth Chamber. So, play Growth Chamber. Pick up Bog. Pass the turn. Opponent Snapcaster Mages for Esper Charm. Can't imagine they make us discard Bog when they could draw 2 cards. Yep, pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play a land. Big Teferi. Yeah, I really don't know how to beat this matchup with this deck. I mean, it's partially due to, like, I had really bad mulligans, but it's also, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I guess cast Turn Timber Symbiosis. Cryptic counter draw. Play Bog. But, like, I don't know what sequence of draws gets me out of this. Like, Cavern of Souls on Giant, then draw Primeval Titan? Yeah, alright. I'll go to game 3. Or round 3, I mean. Alright, well, this seems like a pretty fair ramp hand. We'll keep. There's nothing too broken in this, but I'm tired of mulliganing and, like, just mulliganing into nothing. So, lead on Wooded Foothills. I'm gonna get, I think, Breeding Pool. Play Grazer. Put Growth Chamber into play. Pick up Breeding Pool. Pass the turn. This lets me transmute Talaria on turn 2 if I want to. Otherwise, I can just cast some Explorers. My opponent might be Bring to Light. Depending on what they get off this Wooded Foothills, that may or may not confirm it. It's still possible. If they play Renin 6, I think they're Bring to Light. Okay. So they play their Renin 6. They pick up a land. We untap, we draw Selesnya Sanctuary. So, play Breeding Pool, play Dryad, play Sanctuary, pick up Breeding Pool, pass the turn. Opponent plays a Wooded Foothills, cracks Wooded Foothills, shocks a Steam Vents. This could be it's a fairy. It could also just be like a counter spell or command or something. So we draw Primeval Titan, go to combat, attack our opponent for 2, and go down to 12. So let's explore. We get a Summoner's Pact. Play a Colony Garden, get a 0/1. I think I'm going to explore again. Play Breeding Pool tapped, and play Talaria. We'll pass. I don't think my opponent is playing counter spells. They might be if they're playing Prismari Command. Oh, okay, it's the Titan deck. They're playing Indomitable Creativity. And they pick up the Triome. So they can fetch for Dwarven Mine and then get a Primeval Titan. Or potentially an Emrakul if they're playing Emrakul. They can only get 1, however. Oh, it's Velomachus. Okay. Well, time to find out if we're dead. They cast Growth Spiral. We are not dead. Not yet, anyway. They shock a Steam Vents. I could have blocked that. I definitely should have. I mean, if we cast Primeval Titan, do they just lose? We draw Castle. Play Primeval Titan. They have a counterspell. Never Remand. Alright, play Castle Garenbrig. And let's explore. Another Summoner's Pact. Pass the turn. Now we should definitely be dead. Opponent gets a Dwarven Mine. They attack for 5. Let's see what they cast. Time Warp. They bolt the Grazer. Okay. So I needed to block it last turn. But, I mean, odds are we were going to die. So what can we do against our opponent's deck? Anything? Dismembers work. So we'll bring in Dismember. Technically, Explosives works, and Pact of Negation works as well. I'm going to cut a couple of lands. I'm going to go down to like 27 lands. We'll try like this. Alright, I'll play first. Amulet's pretty good. We're going to keep this. We will start with Colony Garden, make a token, pass the turn. We untap and draw Wooded Foothills. So play Amulet of Vigor, play Growth Chamber, untapping it, bounce Colony Garden, play Grazer. Well, maybe I needed to pick up the land once. Put Colony Garden into play, make another token, untap it. Yeah, I think I needed to pick up the Growth Chamber to itself one time. I'm not sure that I could have done anything even if I'd Summoner's Pacted there for a Dryad. Maybe I could have, but I can just do that more safely next turn. Opponent shocks Stomping Grounds and plays Wrenn and 6. Okay. They pick up their Scalding Tarn. We untap. We draw a Dismember. So, play Valakut. Untap it. Summoner's Pact. We'll get Dryad. Play Dryad. Play Wooded Foothills. And pass the turn. So we have to pay for Pact at our next upkeep. Want to play Scalding Tarn. They crack Scalding Tarn. They might get a Triome here. They'll get an untap land if they have a 3-drop. They get a Mountain. So this could be Prismari Command again. They pick up Scalding Tarn. And they pass. So opponent's going to discard to hand size. We have to pay 4. So pay 4. We draw Breeding Pool. Play Breeding Pool tapped. Then untap it. Go to combat. Attack our opponent for 2. Opponent goes down to 14. Opponent Growth Spirals. Put Scalding Tarn into play. They crack Scalding Tarn. This might be like a tapped blue land, so they can maybe protect an Indomitable Creativity with Spell Pierce. Okay, they get a Dwarven Mine. They untap. If their plan is to double Dwarven Mine Creativity to make sure one Velomachus hits the board, that's a little bit silly. If they have multiple different legendaries, then we could be in trouble. They're going to cast Time Warp. No. Alright. We untap. Pay for Pact. We draw Castle Garenbrig. Play it. Valakut the Dwarf. Go to combat. Attack our opponent for 2. We still have Dismember. And we still have the Fetch as well. Any fetchable land will trigger Valakut as long as Dryad remains on board. So they pick up Scalding Tarn. They play a Dwarven Mine. Make a Dwarf. They're going to cast Time Warp. Fetch with Wooded Foothills. Get a land. Bolt Renin 6. Otherwise they just start retracing Time Warps until the end of time. Pass back to our opponent. They untap. They draw a card. They play Teferi. In that case, we have to do this in response. So Teferi resolves. They play Scalding Tarn, which we knew they had, but they can Dwarven Mine for Velomachus. If they have Transmogrify, they unsummon Grazer, so we don't have a blocker. Alright, they got it. Let's see what they hit. Savor the moment. Okay, so they can uptick their Planeswalkers, and they can attack with Velomachus again. Untap, they draw. They play Scalding Tarn. They uptick Teferi. They attack us for 5. They cast Time Warp. Alright. That, I'm pretty sure, kills us, because my opponent can just, like, down-tick Renin 6 twice and attack. Well, opponent made that deck work better than I ever did. Alright, I'll see you guys in round 4. Alright, this looks like a reasonable hand. On the play for round 4, we'll keep. So let's start Sunhome into Amulet. Pass the turn. Opponent plays Gemstone Mine into Serum Visions. This could be like Dimir Inverter, or what's left of Ad Nauseam. We draw Grazer. So, play Growth Chamber. Untap it. Bounce Sunhome. Play Azusa. Play Colony Garden. Untap it. Make a plant. Play Valakut. Untap it. And play Grazer. We'll put out Sunhome and untap that. I'm holding on to Dryad for a moment. I could have generated a huge amount of mana by replaying Simic Growth Chamber, but I think we're going to be better off versus most decks by turning on Valakut faster. Okay, this is whatever's left of Ad Nauseam. I seem to remember it has a bad matchup against Amulet Titan, but against me playing Amulet Titan with as well as I've been playing it, I'm going to assume they're probably going to win. We draw Primeval Titan. We're only a mana away. Alright, play Dryad. Go to combat. Hit them for 1. If we draw a bounce land, they're very dead. Opponent sacks Gemstone Mine for white, plays Penthead Prism on 2. We draw another Amulet, so go to combat. Attack, attack. Give Dryad double strike. Hit them for 5. They go to 14. They untap and draw. I mean, if they have 4 mana, Grace spoils Thassa's Oracle, they win. They play Teferi. They bounce Dryad. Alright. They play Clearwater Pathway. We untap. We draw Summoner's Pact. This can't actually get us mana in any way. So, go to combat. Hit to Fairy. Replay Dryad. Play Amulet number 2. And if we ever draw a 6th mana, they're dead. Opponent suspends Lotus Bloom. I don't think losing that mine was correct. I think unless they only kept a 1-lander, I think they need to delete on Temple and like double Serum Visions on turn 2. The 3rd Amulet. Hang on, let me check this deck list really quick. So I can Summoner's Pact for Primetime, Dryad, Azusa, Soccer Tribe Scout, or Grazer. None of those help me. So go to combat. Attack for 2. Make it 4. They go to 10. They untap. Lotus Bloom ticks down to 2. They play a Seachrome Coast. This is Phyrexian Unlife. Another Teferi. They bounce Dryad. They suspend another Lotus Bloom. Okay, come on, bounce land. There it is. Finally. Play Amulet 3. Play Selesnya Sanctuary. Untap, float mana. Untap, float mana. Untap, float mana. Bounce Sanctuary. Play Dryad. Play Selesnya Sanctuary. Untap, float mana. Untap, float mana. Untap, float mana. Bounce Sanctuary. We could double Primeval Titan here. I'm gonna. Play Selesnya Sanctuary. Untap, float a bunch. Untap, float a bunch. Untap, float a bunch. Bounce Sanctuary. Cast Summoner's Pact. Get Primeval Titan. Play Primeval Titan. Okay. They were just waiting to see prime time. So we were going to double Primeval Titan and absolutely obliterate our opponent. So versus them, we bring in Force of Vigor, Pact of Negation, Rex Sage, and I'll bring in Erastia. I'm going to go down an Azusa, a couple of lands, Radiant Fountain. Okay, run it back. Alright. This is the double Amulet of Vigor hand, so this is what we've been looking for. The only problem is we have Boros Garrison in our opener. So play Snow-Covered Forest, play Amulet. Opponent spell pierces the Amulet. Alright, we no longer have the ideal hand. Lotus Bloom ticking down. Opponent casts Serum Visions. Nothing. We draw Castle Garenbrig. Play Amulet. Play Gruul Turf. Untap it. Bounce Snow-Covered Forest. Then we will explore. Play a Forest. Play Grazer. Put Garenbrig into play. Untap it. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Lotus Bloom ticks down to 1. They play a Temple of Enlightenment and Scry. We untap. We draw Crumbling Vestige. Okay. So what we do here is play Boros Garrison, untap it, float mana, bounce the Garrison, Summoner's Pact, get Primeval Titan, activate Castle, we'll use the red mana, cast Primeval Titan with only the green. Now we get Slayer's Stronghold and Valakut, untap, untap, give Titan haste, go to combat, attack for 8. We will use its ability. Then I don't have double blue. Otherwise I would go with Growth Chamber and Talaria West here. I can still do that. I just can't transmute for Pact of Negation and use it. Do I really have any other options though? We'll get Talaria West and Growth Chamber. So untap, untap, float mana, bounce Talaria. Oh, I needed to bounce a different land. Sorry. My brain's not working. Yeah, I don't know how to play this deck. Oh my goodness. Okay, we hit them for 8. Pass the turn. When it untaps, they get a Lotus Bloom. They play a Plains. They play Unlife. Well, Unlife I don't think is going to save them. Pay for Summoner's Pact. We draw an Amulet. So play Amulet. Play Crumbling Vestige. Make some colorless mana. Add blue. Now we transmute for Dryad, off of Summoner's Pact, play Dryad, go to combat, attack our opponent. We'll use Primeval Titan's ability. Now we get Valakut and Vesuva, copying Valakut. And this should kill our opponent. He'll just yield through the Vigor triggers, and then Valakut them down to 0. And then, because this is discrete instances of damage, we'll get around Unlife's ability to fog you from infinite to a negative number. So if they try an Angel's Grace now, they've done it in the wrong order. I think my opponent needed Angel's Grace off of the Bloom there to survive. Alright, we won the match. I'll see you guys in round 5. Alright, we're on the draw for round 5, and I think I'm okay with keeping this. It's just one of the ramp hands, I suppose, but is this the same guy? It is not. We're getting Thought Seized. I think they take Dryad here, because without Dryad, we're not doing anything for a while. Yep. Alright, we untap, we draw Explore. So, lead on Colony Garden, Mega Token, pass the turn. Lotus Bloom, taken down to 2. They Sleight of Hand. It looks like the same deck. They play Seachrome Coast. Lots of people must be... This deck must have, like, won a tournament or a challenge or something recently. Or it's just really bad because we're playing against it at, like, the bottom of the bracket. So play Snow-Covered Forest. Let's explore. Play Sanctuary. We'll pick up Colony Garden. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Penthead Prism and a Gemstone Mine. We untap, draw Forest. Play Castle. Pass the turn. So opponent has 1 billion mana and they should be able to win the game. They cast Serum Visions. Opponent plays another Penthead Prism. We untap. We draw Summoner's Pact. Play a Forest. Activate Garenbrig, play Primeval Titan. Let's go get Valakut and... I'm not sure. Cavernous Souls, maybe? Name Dryad. Pass the turn. Opponent untaps. They play Phyrexian on life. They spoils, so they can exile their whole deck. Yep, exile 46 cards, so here comes Thassa's Oracle. Okay. What did I say we needed against this deck? Force of Vigor, Pact of Negation, a Rexage, and I think I brought in Arastia. We'll cut an Azusa, a couple of lands, and a Soccer Tribe Scout. Just bringing in Arasta because it's fun. Not necessarily because it's good. I'd like to play first. Alright, we have multiple Amulets of Vigor, so we'll try it. Play Sunhome, play Amulet, pass the turn. Opponent leads on Temple of Deceit and Scries. We untap, we draw Summoner's Pact. That's actually pretty huge, I think. Play Amulet, play Castle, untap, float mana, untap, float mana. Explore, play Selesnya Sanctuary, untap, float mana, untap, float mana, pick up Sunhome, I think? Summoner's Pact. We'll get Dryad, play Soccer Tribe Scout, play Castle Garenbrig, then pass. So I've got to spend all of my mana for that Summoner's Pact. I think if I had just waited, I could probably have gotten Titan. So we untap, pay 4, we draw Summoner's Pact, play Sunhome, go to combat, attack our opponent for 3. And if they have Angel's Grace, Spoils, Thassa's Oracle, we lose. Their mana does support such a thing. They play Gemstone Mine, and they pass. We untap, we draw Castle. So Summoner's Pact, get Primeval Titan. Play Castle, play Primeval Titan. So we go get Boros Garrison and Slayer's Stronghold. Oh, I stacked the triggers wrong. I'm pretty sure I did. Maybe it's fine? We'll see. Oh, it's fine because I have Soccer Tribe Scout. So float mana, float mana, float mana, untap, give haste, bounce, Garrison. Oh, I can just replay it here. Play Garrison, untap, float mana. I actually needed to double Slayer Stronghold there. Untap, float mana, bounce Boros Garrison. I could have bounced Slayer Stronghold, I wasn't thinking, because then I could have Soccer Tribe scouted it back in. But they're at 16 life, so go to combat. They have Slaughter Pact. Alright, so that ties up their mana next turn, unless they have Angel's Grace. Hit them for 2, pass the turn. Alright, Slaughter Pact trigger. They pay for it. They play a Gemstone Mine, and they pass. We might be able to kill them this turn. Alright, let's pay for... Okay. Then we draw Primeval Titan. Like I was worried. Play Boros Garrison. Untap it. Float mana. Untap it. Float mana. Bounce Garrison. Play Garrison. Untap it. Float mana. Untap it. Float mana. Bounce Garrison. Soccer Tribe Scout. Put Garrison into play. Untap it. Float mana. Hang on a minute. Float green. Untap it. Float green. Bounce. I guess Castle. Activate. Play Primeval Titan. Primeval Titan. We're gonna go get Valakut. They're gonna Slaughter Pact Dryad. Okay, so we're not gonna get Valakut. We're gonna go get Growth Chamber, Talaria West. Untap, float mana. Untap, float mana. Untap, float mana. Untap, float mana. Bounce Talaria West. Transmute. Get Summoner's Pact. Summoner's Pact. Get Dryad. Play Dryad. Activate Slayer's Stronghold. Activate Sunhome. Go to combat. Attack my opponent for 16. We'll go get, I think it's Valakut here. We don't care about the lands untapping. They've got to have Angel's Grace, or they would have just conceded. Yeah, okay. We will take them down to 1 because they have a City of Brass, and we deny them 1 mana. It's possible what I should have done is instead of get Dryad there, I should have gone and got Reclamation Sage to take out their Pentad Prism. Alright, pass to next turn. Opponent has to pay 3 or lose. If they have Angel's Grace, Spoils, Thassa's Oracle this turn, they win. Alright, opponent is going to cast Ad Nauseam. I don't think they've played a land yet this turn, so they can play a land. The question is, what do they do to play Thassa's Oracle? It might be Unearth. I could see it being Unearth. So they can pick up their whole deck. They don't have any free mana they can get on board with, I don't think. See, this is where Simian Spirit Guide would have won them the game. Alright. Well, that game was pretty awesome. The line that I took there, I think that was pretty sick. We'll run it back for Game 3. Alright, Game 3, we'll be on the draw, and I do like this hand, so I am going to keep. Opponent starts Temple of Enlightenment, so we don't have to worry about Spell Pierce. At least, not immediately. Play Radiant Fountain, gain life, play Amulet of Vigor, pass the turn. Opponent casts Serum Visions into a Dark Slick Shores, we untap, we draw Selesnya Sanctuary. So I can play a bunch of stuff this turn. Play Growth Chamber, untap it, float mana, bounce Radiant Fountain, play Azusa, then I can play 2 more lands this turn. So I could play like Radiant Fountain, Breeding Pool, and then I can Breeding Pool, Grazer, put Garrison into play, untap it, and pick up Radiant Fountain. Pass the turn. If we draw Summoner's Pact, if we draw Primeval Titan, we can play them. If my opponent plays a Phyrexian Unlife, or specifically mana, I will probably play Reclamation Sage. We untap and draw Castle Garenbrig. Play Castle. Play Radiant Fountain. Gain life. I'm going to keep the Selesnya Sanctuary in hand. Pass the turn. Opponent plays a Swamp. So we have 8 draws at a Titan between Summoner's Pact and Primeval Titan. We have 2 Turn Timber Symbiosis, which we could also cast if we drew. Opponent passes. We draw Valakut. Play Valakut. Untap it. Pass the turn. Well, if we draw Dryad now, Dryad is also good. Opponent untaps. They play a Seachrome Coast tapped, and they pass. We untap. We draw Slayer's Stronghold. So play Stronghold. Whoops. No. Let's go ahead and Slayer Stronghold Azusa. Go to combat. Attack for 3. Opponent takes 3, goes to 17. We have to pass. Opponent plays a Temple of Enlightenment. They get to scry, then they pass. We untap, and we draw a Primeval Titan. So, start with Selesnya Sanctuary. Untap it. Float mana. Bounce it. Tap Growth Chamber. Tap Castle Garenbrig. Play Primeval Titan. We'll use Primeval Titan's ability. We'll get Sunhome and Vesuva. Vesuva is going to copy Boros Garrison. So we untap, float mana, Slayer Stronghold Primeval Titan, bounce Vesuva to our hand, go to combat. Opponent has Echoing Truth. Okay. Go to our second main. Play Selesnya Sanctuary. Untap it. Float mana. Bounce Selesnya Sanctuary. Play another Primeval Titan. We'll go and get Growth Chamber and Talaria West. Untap, float mana. Untap, float mana. Bounce Talaria West. Transmute it. And we'll get Pact of Negation. Then we pass the turn. Opponent untaps. Maybe it was correct to go for Dryad off of Summoner's Pact. I just feel like with my opponent having this much mana and them not doing anything, they have like the combo with Ad Nauseam. If they play Ad Nauseam, we counter Ad Nauseam. So opponent passes, we untap, we draw Snow-Covered Forest. So play Vesuva, copy Garrison, untap it, Stronghold Primeval Titan, bounce Vesuva, then we play Vesuva, copy Stronghold, untap it, Slayer Stronghold again, then we play Selesnya Sanctuary, untap it, bounce Vesuva, double strike Titan, go to combat, attack for lethal, we'll go get Growth Chamber and our other Talaria West, untap, bounce Radiant Fountain, opponent Angel's Grace, so they're going to go down to 1. Oh, I needed to bounce my other Talaria West here. This is fine. We still have Pact. Opponent's still going to be dead to Dryad and a lot of stuff. Awesome. Alright. Well, I don't have a ton of time to talk about the deck because I've got another obligation coming up here very, very shortly. And I'm not super good at playing Amulet Titan. I feel like this version's playing too many lands, but like I said, I'm no expert. Also, without Ancient Stirrings, it feels like it's hard to get Amulet. It's just hard to assemble all the pieces. Like, I'm sure if you could just draw really well, like a lot of the people who play Amulet Titan seem to be able to do against me, you'll just win. Because, like, if you just play, like, turn 1 Amulet, turn 2 Amulet, bounce land, then Arboreal Grazer, or Dryad, or Azusa into Titan, just kill your opponent on turn 2, like, you know, good for you, good for whoever can do that. I'm not that person. But I hope you guys all enjoyed Amulet Titan. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined, and remember you can follow me on Twitch. Same username over there as you find me on here. I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, though the last few times have been earlier than that. And yeah, you're all wonderful human beings. Thanks for watching. Bye! Hey, just wanted to give a shout out to my patrons for the month of May. If you want to support my channel directly and have your name show up in this list, there's a link to my Patreon in the description down below. Thank you all.